I'm totally missing something. I do want to go ahead and note, geez, I completely lost my train of thought. Having one of those moments where I feel like I'm forgetting something. It'll probably come to me as an afterthought and I'll fit it into the video. Hey guys, what's up? It's Matt86 and today I'm looking at the Asus TUF, and this is the 504G, which is, well, the FX504G. This is one of their newer lineups of the TUF laptops. However, this one's probably already a little bit old at this point. I'm sure people have already seen some stuff on it. And this is more of a budget answer to some lower end, more casual gaming if that's something you've been looking for. I'm going to go over some of the stuff about it as well as some of the construction quality and specifications within it and what you can maybe do with it if you wanted to expand on what it is a little bit more. So let's start by saying this is kind of going to be for your price range of about $650 to $700. If you're looking to spend about that much, this might be a good option for you. However, if you're looking for a little bit more from your graphics, it's going to kind of stop you there. So some of the construction things to note. First thing I always like to test now that I've seen other people do, and I've just become this weird guy that's like I have to test that on every laptop I see, is how many fingers does it take to lift it? Can you lift it with one finger? And by lift it, I mean lift the hinge up, as in open the monitor up without the base moving with it. And no, you can't here. It's not very well balanced, so if you try to lift it up that way, it's actually going to lift the whole laptop up, and I've realized how much I actually prefer a well-balanced laptop and hinge where it takes one finger to lift it up and the base stays down. That could have to do with the fact that it's pretty reasonably light. It's only about 4 pounds 13 ounces, give or take a couple point ounces there. I do like the aesthetic style of it. It's very fingerprint resistant with not having a lot of glossiness on it at all. It's actually really nice because you can touch it, and unless you've got butter or grease all over your fingers, you shouldn't be leaving any kind of real residue behind on the laptop itself. It keeps it looking pretty snazzy and clean. The red accents around it look pretty good to me too, but of course this is subjective and this is how I feel about it. I like that it has that little bit of extra flair without looking too gamerly aggressive, so you could take it to a Starbucks, sit down, and not look like the guy that's just sitting there to play his super awesome gaming Alienware laptop. Not that Alienware's super awesome, but you know what I mean. Some of you might get mad about that, so maybe I'll take that out. Unlike Acer's kind of poor quality plastic construction, this has some pretty durable feeling, nice quality plastic construction. Maybe not as much as that Dell 15700 series I looked at a long time ago. That one just felt pretty legitimate. This one is pretty nice and in between there. It's durable feeling without being too durable feeling, but also not feeling flimsy and weak like the Acer ones I've typically encountered. One thing I don't like is the bezel. The bezel is 3/4 inch all the way around, it seems like, and that's pretty big. I don't like a big bezel. I like a bezel to be as minimal as possible. Within that bezel is going to be the screen that it hosts, which is actually, and I wrote down the model here in case anybody else wants to go research it as well, it uses the LG D0570 monitor screen. It's not that great, but it works for this price range. It's an IPS panel that's 700:1 contrast. It's a 1080p 60Hz refresh monitor screen. Accordingly, it covers 72% of NTSC. The problem that I have with it is that 700:1 contrast ratio, which when we do a black crush test kind of limits you to seeing that box 6 is the last one you can really see, and that whole first row from box 1 through 5 just all look black to me. I should have taken I did take a picture, and I'll post it right here, and you can see it. It's an overexposed external shot, because if I show you a black crush test on a monitor just streamed or live or even re-recorded, you're going to see the black crush test as well as your own monitor allows. Now before we get into inputs, we're going to talk about a digital input, if you will. Bluetooth 5 is actually featured on this, which might be the coolest feature that this laptop has to offer. Bluetooth 5 is one of the newer standards, depending on when you watch this video, maybe not the newest standard, but Bluetooth 5 is actually really cool because two Bluetooth 5 compatible devices can talk to each other for up to 800 feet, where you're usually limited somewhere about 10 meters with just about any other Bluetooth 4 point whatever device. Good news about Bluetooth 5 though, like you would probably expect, it is backwards compatible with all previous and prior versions, so it'll work fine for whatever Bluetooth device you have you want it to talk to. I do like to test that trackpad, and I like to see that the trackpad can emulate the screen, and this is fairly reasonable. I can take it in the middle of the, put the mouse in the middle of the screen, take my finger in the middle of the mouse pad, and I can move it left and right and pretty much emulate that screen entirely. I like that. That's something that some laptop manufacturers don't even worry about. It's something that a lot of people have to go in and adjust, but right out of the box, this works pretty well. Every one of the inputs for this laptop is going to be located on the left-hand side of the laptop, so no trying to remember or figure out if you need to go to the right side to plug something in this time, or you can stick to the left. This may or may not be a good or bad thing for you, I'm not sure, but I kind of like the fact that they're all on the left side. That also may tell you that it's a little bit limited in its inputs. There's a DC input, an Ethernet jack, an HDMI, which is sadly HDMI 1.4. I tested it. HDMI 1.4 is going to limit you at 2160p at 30 Hz. But if if you wanted to go to an outside monitor that's not quite so beefy, I guess it wasn't really necessary for them to go 2.0. That just would have been nice if they would have. You can go 1080p at 60 Hz on an external monitor. If you're doing something else, you could even go 1440 at 60 Hz. You have two USB 3.0 and only one USB 2.0, and also, as expected, your 3.5mm auxiliary jack. The speakers on the laptop are going to be located on both the front, left, and right, kind of firing outward sideways for that nice stereo sound that you may or may not like. I kind of find that more refreshing than some of the down-firing ones or some of the under-firing ones. I like this a little bit. It's more conventional to me to have them on the sides, kind of where they belong, and maybe slightly angled towards the user. They're still downwards firing to some degree, but I think it's a little bit better of an option. We'll also pause here so you can listen to what they sound like and compare them to other more real speakers. Not that they're not real speakers, but you know what I mean. So while running the Valley benchmark, I did notice that our internal temperatures, and I use Valley on purpose because it gets hotter than just about all the other benchmarks, the internal temperature sits around 72, occasionally bouncing 74, coming back to 72 after running it for a long time. I find this more than acceptable. Those are perfect temperatures for a gaming laptop, and it worked out pretty good. That's running Valley at the highest maximum setting, and 72 degrees Celsius is not that bad for me. On the outside though, we did take it and we ran around with the little heat thermometer and pointed it at it, and we got up to 40, 41, 42 degrees Celsius on external temperatures. Again, I don't think that that's that bad, but it does get a little bit warm on the outside. The laptop does seem to manage heat pretty well. The fans, on the other hand, I guess you kind of pay for that with your ears because the fans do get loud. As you can see here in this demonstration, I will show you the ambient room sound and I will let you listen to the fans as they ramp up between ambient room and just them being maxed out. Take a listen. Let's talk a little bit about the internals that it has now. The SSD is an M.2 2280 format, and it is a SATA 3 6GB transfer SSD. What does that mean? You're looking at sequential read-write speeds of about 540 and 463. This is pretty on par with most SATA 3 SSDs, so you're not looking at something NVMe that's going to give you a whole lot more than that. And that's kind of what you're going to be limited to with this laptop. If you wanted to go with a much more efficient, faster SSD, you're stuck with a SATA 3 M.2 in this laptop. There is room for additional storage inside of the laptop as well. If you wanted to add a 2.5-inch drive, there is a 2.5-inch SATA 3 drive bay in there so that you could have an additional game library, additional storage for work, anything that you're working on. You can put that in there and that'll work out pretty good. I was interested to find out that Asus apparently uses SK Hynix too, because this is the RAM that they have in there. They have a 8GB stick of SK Hynix 2666. I'm going to post the model number down below in case you're interested in matching this if you go for this laptop. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone just use SK Hynix. I feel like that's always been something that kind of came from most Dell products I've seen actually use that brand. And in case you were wondering, the processor that is used is the 8th generation Coffee Lake i5 processor. It's the 8300H, which is a quad-core processor at 2.3. Yep, at 2.3 gigahertz. Quick notes about battery boost in gaming on just about any laptop, especially any laptop that's using a GPU like the 1050. That's what's in here. It's a 2GB version GPU 1050. When we use superposition doesn't even bother letting us try maximum settings or VR testing because there's just not enough VRAM there for it to even bother. You'll run into some issues on higher, more AAA titles trying to play at ultimate max settings. You may want to downscale to 720p and play on higher graphics settings, or just downscale to medium settings on 1080p so that you can enjoy the experience. And being realistic about what the laptop is, I don't think that that's too much to ask. I'm just saying, if you wanted something a little bit more, this laptop's going to stick you with the 1050. I do want to go ahead and note that a lot of games are going to work just fine for you. If you play games like Overwatch, if you're playing games like Gears of War 4, if you're playing RTS games, Age of Empires, StarCraft, if you're playing games like Paladins, if you're playing a lot of not super demanding AAA title type games, this might be perfect for you. Big open world games though, even older ones like Assassin's Creed Black Flag had issues with this laptop, as a big open sprawling world trying to render a bunch of graphics is a little bit much for that 1050. Anyways guys, I'm Matt with 86 Gaming and I hope you have a great day, night, whatever it is. I'll see you in the next video I do. This is the Asus TUF FX504G. If you have any questions about it, be sure and leave them down below. I'll try my best to get back with you and assist you with answering that question. I'm sure I forgot something because I'm standing here looking at my notes and thinking I'm forgetting something. I'm sure I did. Anyways, have a great day, night, whatever it is. I'll see you in the next video I do. I got it. I know what I've forgotten. It was to talk about the chiclet style keyboard, the actual keyboard itself. Probably one of my most favorite features of this laptop is the keyboard. I like it more than any of the other laptops I've ever owned or used. I really think that this is a really nice chiclet style keyboard. Now, it's kind of like low profile mechanical switches, while not at all being low profile mechanical switches because they're membrane chiclet switches, but they feel great. There's no wobble to them. They have nice depression actuation, and they really make this keyboard like just fun to use. Now it is backlit in red and red only. You can turn the red off if you don't want the red on. However, if you do want backlighting, it's going to be in red, and the WASD keys are going to be emboldened with a red outline to really kind of give it that gamer-esque feel. I mean, it is a gamer laptop. I do like how they fit the full 10 key on there too. I love using a 10 key on any of my keyboards. I'm not the TKL guy. I like the full 10 key keyboards. However, this one's a little bit cramped, so if you commit to muscle memory with doing your numbers, or if you macro anything over there, or you just use it when you're adding like a calculator, just keep in mind that they're a little bit smaller than all your typical 10 keys are, and therefore it's going to take a little bit of a learning curve to get used to because they're somewhat offset and a little bit smaller. Other than that though, it's a gorgeous keyboard on a laptop. Absolutely one of my favorites, and it definitely was something that I can't believe I forgot to talk about earlier in the video. I apologize. I'm sure there's other stuff I missed, and I'm sure you guys are going to let me know down below. Anyways guys, I'll cut to the outro now. Have a great day, night, whatever it is, and I'll see you in the next video that I do.